record breaking. This is fabulous. Thank you all for coming. I'm Kathy Kyle, just for the record, and I've got a couple of housekeeping. For those of you who have not yet filled out this form is for the senior center, and they just want to be released of any liability. So if you have not filled it out, it's like check one box and sign your name. Deborah, stand up, please. Deborah has the forms, if you need a form, if you have not yet filled this form out. Are there hands?
Whoa.
Deborah, this is the baptism of fire. Deborah's new on this job, and this is her first assignment.
Tell them to keep their hands up.
Okay, so if you raise your hands, Deborah will give you a paper. Again, it's just a very quick fill out, and when you're finished, at the break, you can return it to Deborah. That would be great, okay? All right. The other one is, if you've all noticed, we've got goodies on the table back there. And the reason that we've got them is because we bring them. And so we need more people to bring them for the next 2 meetings. We're going to look at the next 2 months. So here is a paper that's going to be passed around. And if you are interested in bringing some goodies, if you don't get on these 2 months, we have what?
9 other options.
9 other. I'm doing the math. Oh my gosh. Okay, so 9 other options, okay? So that paper's going around. Okay, after the break, we're going to have some introductions. We're going to introduce board members. We're going to introduce new members and guests. So that's what's coming up, okay? In the meantime, I would like to introduce, there's Polly. Okay, I'm putting this back. You can still hear me, right? Am I good? Okay. Okay. Polly LaPorte is our demonstrator. I think I have to raise this.
And that's how it becomes a handheld.
Polly, hang on. Okay, I don't know.
Raise it with the one below that, the section below
Yeah,
that.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that dog don't hunt. Is that how that works? Okay. I'd like to introduce Polly LaPorte. Polly is our demonstrator for today, our artist demonstrator. And just a brief background, Polly attended the Sugarloaf Camp as a child.
Oh,
Isn't that cool?
yeah.
That's cool because we are looking toward Sugarloaf as a possible outlet for our outreach donations. And I just have to do some follow-up work on that. But Polly then became a teacher and is now the art director at Sugarloaf Camp, which is pretty cool. The other cool thing is, Polly, as a graphic designer, became a professional at it, and that was her profession. And she was the art director for Channel 10 News. And, a little drum roll, won an Emmy for that work. I mean, we have a celebrity here. That is cool. Her paintings, she mostly paints in oil and does teaching with acrylics. And her stories and her photographs tell a story. And with that, I'm going to bring Polly on so she can continue. One other thing, if you have a question for Polly, please ask. Don't hesitate. While she's doing her demonstration, she's happy to answer as she goes along. Okay? All righty.
So Kathy, turn your mic off. Polly should be on. Carolyn's gonna switch him over at the back.
We're not gonna have another squeal, are we?
Oh, well, we might. Let's see. Kathy, turn yours off, and now.
Oh, it was bad.
Oh, am I? Oh.
Okay, do a sound
Can you hear me
check.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, good.
Oh my God, it worked.
Happy New Year, everybody, 2024. Thank you so much for coming to my demonstration. I did grow up in Placerville, went to El Dorado High School, and then that's how I got involved with Sugarloaf. I graduated from El Dorado High and then went to UC Davis, but I was born in San Francisco, where my grandmother was a real estater and real estate broker and fine artist herself. Her artwork can be found at the Crocker Art Museum. 3 pieces are in the Crocker. My mom sort of skipped a generation. My mom did a little bit of painting, but mostly she was like an amazing cook, and she was an amazing gardener. I ended up going into fine art kind of secretively because everyone told me that you can't make a living at art. So when I went to UC Davis, I majored in Spanish. Then I started taking a lot of art classes, and everybody always kidded me, like, what, are you going to teach Spanish to artists? Or art to Spanish? I'm like, yeah, right. So anyway, I ended up majoring in art kind of like under the table. And then, so here I am, got into graphic design and animation, which was wonderful, and then ended up getting back into my fine art painting about 10 years ago. So this year I will have a milestone of 10,000 hours of painting, which makes me a master painter. So I do teach in oil also, and I love teaching kids, really fun. So let's get started today. I just want to talk about some of the things that I teach my beginning students, and I've taken workshops from Sarah Sedgwick where I've learned a lot of how I teach because I like the way she teaches. The one thing she teaches is you can make any color from 3 primaries plus white. I add a little brown in, which is a red oxide, transparent red oxide, to do my underpainting work, or to make a black. I'll mix my blue and brown to make a black. I do not use black necessarily unless I'm using Zorn palette. But black serves as just a desaturated blue, so I don't even call it black, I call it a blue. So what I do is I start with my primary. So I have a blue, this one is phthalo blue, and then I have a red and a yellow. So plus white. In between my 2 primaries, I mix 3 steps. One has less blue, more blue, and then this is mostly blue, and then over here and here. So I have my color wheel. So that allows me to, when I want to mix a color and I want to put a tiny bit of red in, but mostly yellow, I go from this pile. And therefore, you don't like go way over and then have to chase it back. So I use these step down colors to add a little bit of something else, and I try to use complex colors, which means not just 2 colors, not just a red and a yellow, but also a tiny bit of the 3rd primary. And that would be the case for every color I mix. So complex colors would have all of the 3 primaries, just a tiny bit of the 3rd maybe. When I come to the more pure color, like the highlights or the color that's in this case I'm doing lemons, I might go into the really pure yellow, but that would be for a very small part of the painting. Most of it is using all 3 primaries. Any questions about that? Today I'm using my favorite odorless mineral spirits, Gamsol, which it doesn't smell. I tend to keep the lid on anyway because even though you can't smell it, it's getting into the air. So I try to limit how much, so I keep the lid on. I also use like an air filter in my studio just for health practices. I like using a fairly large palette knife, and I do paint in palette knife. There's a couple kinds of palette knives I like using. I just brought this one today, but I like using a square one. And I'm learning more about palette knife because it can add really thick paint and texture to your painting.
So Polly, as we're working the camera here right now, we've been getting your back.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Okay. Right.
Right?
So, right.
There you go.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I tone my canvases. I like working on a tone canvas, so I'm not chasing white all the time. And it just depends, like, I'll have leftover paint from my oils, and I'll just put it on a bunch on canvas instead of throwing it away. Yes.
Are you using acrylic today or oil?
Very good question. I tone my canvas with acrylic because it dries so fast. And then I'm using oil to paint with. So good question. Any other questions? Okay. The paint brands that I like to use, are there any oil painters here? Yeah, everyone has their favorite. My favorite white is the M. Graham's fast drying white. I love using this because when I paint thick, I can deliver a painting to somebody in 2 weeks instead of 2 months because if I put it on really thick. I love M. Graham because it's really buttery. The other one I do for less expensive paint is just the stuff you get at Dick Blick, the Utrecht paint. Any questions about paint? Okay, let's get started.
Is M. Graham the brand?
M. Grant is the brand, yes.
Okay.
And you can, no stores carry it in Sacramento, but you can order it online through Jerry's or through Dick Blick.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a view catcher. Anybody familiar with these torture devices? Yeah. So it's like wearing tight underwear. I use it because I'm focusing, and then I get rid of it as soon as possible because it's really hard to paint with one eye. So I will focus in. I get my composition by closing one eye and kind of figuring out where the edges of my square are going to be in this case. So I'll go ahead and I will make a square, kind of like where this painting is going to live on the canvas. And because I'm using an oversized canvas, it's kind of more fun because I can I decide if I need to move it over, I have a tiny bit of wiggle room. If I'm painting on the canvas, it's 2 size. I would probably do a sketch first and a couple value sketches before I get started. But this one, just a demo, I'm not too concerned. So I'm mixing some of my brown and the blue to kind of get a black. Now I'm going to look through here and get started with my composition. So I mark my center like my bullseye. So now I have a reference as to where I'm going to put it. And then I look down here and I can see where it's halfway in here. There's that leaf. This lemon is down here. So I'm roughly doing it in. I'm not trying to get too detailed in my sketch. Looking at my negative spaces. The other thing that I really like about working with fruits or that kind of thing is that instead ellipses, you can tell when it's off. Fruit, nobody knows because they don't see the fruit when after the painting, so they don't know if it was really that close or that far away or that big or that round or whatever. So it's forgiving when you do organic shapes. So just kind of getting in where these things are. So there's my sketch where things are. I pay attention to the negative areas when I'm looking through this. It helps me get it in the right location. The next thing that's important is the cast shadows and what's in shadow, what's in light. So there's my shadows. It's kind of an indicator. And then there's some shadow area there. Shadow. So now I've made lines kind of telling me this is the shadow area shadow, this is cast shadow, form shadow. So now I have my architecture in. And I can put this dreaded thing away. Yay. So next thing I'm going to do is...
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you're looking through the viewfinder, you only look with one eye?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise you get double vision and you can't really, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You have to close one. It's dreadful. I can't wait to do it. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to pre-mix some of my colors. So I'm gonna start with like the shadow side of the lemon. I'm starting by using an orange, which of course is 2 primaries already, and rule of thumb, I'm gonna add the 3rd primary. I'm gonna choose from my mixture that has less, it's kind of double. I mean, it's almost equal red and blue, sort of a purple. And purple is, of course, the complementary of yellow, so that's a really good color to make for yellow, something that's in the shade, because something that's in the shadow side is going to be cooler and less saturated. So I've mixed that, and I never mix enough, so I'm going to mix a little bit more. The other thing is to get enough paint so you have something to work with, because there's nothing more frustrating than running out of that color you mixed, and then you have to go back and mix it again. It takes you out of the flow of painting. So I've mixed the shadow side of my lemon, and I probably need a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to mix the light side of the lemon, which will be the one that has mostly yellow and a little bit of red. So if this is the light side, I'm going to go to one that has just a very tiny bit of the blue in. And I have a lot of that color, so I need to make more of it. So when you look at the still life, there's a lot more of lemon in the light than there is in the shadow. So I got 2 colors there. Now I'm going to mix the leaf color. So I'm starting with my pre-mix that has mostly blue and a little bit of yellow in it, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of the 3rd primary to make it the shadow side of the leaf. The leaf in the shadow side. Then I'm going to mix the leaf as it looks in the light side. And here, I tend not to add white to warm colors because white is the coolest color. So you can add white to your cooler colors, which is blues or greens, and it tends not to deaden it because that's already a cool color. When you add white to a warm color, it just sucks the life out of it. Not so with the blues because they're both cool colors. So I'm going to add a little bit of white to my... I tend to try not to add white to my colors, but sometimes you just have to. But mostly I try not to. I try to stay away from white in my colors. I would rather lighten my yellow, my green with a yellow. Okay, so now I'm going to mix my cast shadow color. So I'm going to take the purple. Up. Okay, so now I'll pick this up and show you. So I've mixed the shadow side of the lemon, the light side of the lemon. This is not the highlights, just the shadow and light, really simple. The shadow, the leaf and the shadow, the leaf and the light, my cast shadow color, and that's it. Now I can get going. And then when I want to modify it, I can go into any of my piles and modify a little bit. And what it does, it keeps all your colors consistent. You have consistency because you have a little bit of the same color everywhere. And it makes it easier to keep it looking like it's all in the same realm. Okay. So I started with a small brush to do the sketch in. Now I'm going to go to a larger brush. About like this, about a 1/2 inch. And the brush that I like to use for oils is it's the Princeton Catalyst, and it's a synthetic tip, but it's really robust. It's not it's firm because I like to be able to pick up a lot of paint and put it down. course, at first, I try to start with not too much paint. And also, when you're doing something like a lemon or any bright color, you start with I like to start with the color that is the most fragile to pollution by other colors, which would be yellow. So I'll start with the yellow, because as I keep going, I'll have all this paint in my brush. I like to use the same brush, and you'll start to not be able to get that really saturated yellow. So I'm going to just go ahead and put in kind of load it up on the brush by going back and forth. What I like to do when I'm loading my brush is I like to push it into the paint like this. So you're really loading up all those brushes, those little brush pieces. So I'm basically just doing the lemon that's in the light side now. Over here, comes around. There we go, I put if you guys can see that, now I've just put the light side of lemon in the light. Now I'm gonna go, because it's still yellow and still complete, I'm just gonna do the shadow side of the lemon. I'm gonna go over to my shadow color, my shadow side color, and put that in, see how it looks. Actually, I think I want a little bit
Do you
darker.
use a painting medium?
Sometimes I do, but mostly not. I used to just use the solvent, yeah, but I will sometimes add, I don't use liquid, because I think it has some health issues with it, but I will use walnut oil. So now I'm just putting in the shadow side of the lemon. So there we go, there's the, I don't know, you see, so I've now put in the shadow side of the lemon. Now the face of the lemon, I always used to make it like really bright, and I've learned that the cut side of the lemon is really quite desaturated. So I'm going to add some white and see if I can get it. So, yeah, not white enough. So put more white in there. I try to load up my brush and put it down with one, and not what they call like licking the canvas or petting the puppy. So now I put in the face of the cut lemon. Wash that off, because now I'm going to do the white, which is not pure white. So I'm going to kind of step it down a little bit, because I want to reserve my whitest whites for the highlights. I try to pick up and not do more than one brush stroke before I pick up more paint. base of the lemon. Squint looks pretty good. The other thing I like to do before I start fussing with something because it's not quite right, I want to cover the canvas. Because that way, especially working on a toned canvas, you can really judge the values that you're working with. Because values are what really makes dimension. Color gets all the credit, but value does all the work. If you don't have the proper value structure, it won't make sense and it won't be appealing. So you have to really work on what's in the shadow, what's in light, what's darker than what's lighter than what. And if you can get that down, you'll have more likely a successful painting. So I'm going to go ahead and do I'm going to add a little bit of red to the dark leaf. I'm going to go ahead and put the dark shadow side of the leaf. I'm going to find where that is, where it lives in my painting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put in the light side of that. Just simple brush strokes, try not to get too fussy. So now I have and it's really basic. I'm not trying to do like minute anything. I'm not trying to make a photograph. I could take a photograph. I'm trying to minimalize and simplify the shapes, and within the shapes have a slight bit of modification of either color, stroke direction, or something, but really not too fussy and very simple. Any questions? Yep.
Back at the beginning, what color did you use to do your sketch?
The color I used to do my sketch was the transparent red oxide. I like using that because it tends to dry faster because it's an earth tone.
Okay, so you're not picking that up with your other paints? Or
Yes, yeah, no, you are. Again, when I did my sketch with the transparent red oxide, I did it with a lot of turpentine, a lot of solvent. So it tends to dry fairly rapidly. I don't mind that it mixes with the edge, I kind of like that. But you can control how much it mixes by the angle of the brush on the canvas. If you're doing this, you're pushing, you're going to pick that up. If your brush is like this, you're going to lay it on top and you won't have as much mixing. And how hard you press, and how much paint is on your brush. Yes?
Do you have like a favorite color that you like to tone your canvas with?
It depends on what I'm painting. Today I chose on purpose a kind of a purple color because it's the complementary of yellow. I knew I was going to be painting lemons today, so I choose it based on what the dominant color is going to be in the painting. And sometimes I'll just mess around, like I'll have my 6-year-old student and we'll have all this leftover acrylic paint and I'll paint all these weird colors and I'll paint on top of that. So I do all kinds of underpainting, but sometimes it's really wild and crazy just to see what I can get. So sometimes it's not all one tone.
Now, are you just going to leave those 2 lemons, just 2 values?
No.
Okay, just check it.
Good question. But of course, but that's where I say I needed to totally get everything covered before I deal with that.
Okay.
So I start really simply, and when you start simply with just what's in light and what's in shadow, you don't get hung up in all those details, and you're able to get farther along in the whole canvas cover, and then you can better see what you have to do next. So now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the background because the color of the cast shadow is already kind of darker and kind of in the right value. So in order for me to understand how I'm going to improve upon the value structure, I'm going to put what's missing here, which is this bright white that I don't have in yet. So I'm going to put that in that will help me go from there. So the order is, what makes sense to you in order to make the next decision. So for me, it's going to be the white background. And I used to just put plain just pure white in the background, now I know better, that's not so fun. So I'll mix it with something, like all three. So again, not just white, but white with all three primaries. And maybe a little bit of that. I'm gonna get myself a bigger pile because that's kind of a large area. So I'm gonna load up my brush, maybe put a little bit of solvent in there to get it to go. And then I'm gonna put it down and see what I think, so, yeah. A little too thick, I want it to go a little farther, so I'll put a little bit of turpentine in there. And I can cut into the form I already have. And sometimes I like leaving a little bit of the background tone color in there. That's one of the reasons I like tone, is because you can leave some of it behind and it adds interest to your texture by not trying to cover up every square inch of that toned canvas. Whereas if you had white, you'd want to chase it down and cover it all up. When you have tone, you don't have to do that, and you can use the tone color as part of your composition interest. And I like to kind of, as you can see, sort of like work my way with the brush direction just for interest, not just go the same direction every time. Load up my brush, try not to cover up all my backgrounds. I'm sort of talking to myself saying, okay, don't cover it all up. All right, I won't. Okay, so now we have more information. I brought some of the light stuff in, and I like the way my values are. And so the last piece of the puzzle is I'm going to go ahead and try to nail the cast shadow. And the cast shadow, I'm going to make it kind of a cool purpley color. I'm going to add some more red here. See how I like that? Oh yeah, that's good. And then once you've chosen your color, you know, if you don't like it when you first put it down, stop. Don't keep putting down the color you don't like. Another mystery solved, like, oh, I didn't like that color. Why am I putting it down over and over again? Stop yourself. Okay. So now we have the cast shadow. So now I have basically the whole canvas tone or painted. I have paint on every place where I want it to do. Now I'm going to go in and look at the halftone. So what you have is you have the light and dark. The halftone is the color that meets in between the shadow and the light side. That area tends to be the most saturated color. Where you have the highlight is actually not very saturated. It's like a lot of white, because when light is hitting, especially something shiny, it takes out the color. So my highlights tend to be desaturated and a lot of white. For my halftone, I'm going to do something in between. It's going to be warmer than the yellow, so I have my yellow color. I'm going to add some red to it. Kind of making it a saturated color. Let's see how that happens. So there's my halftone. Halftone here. This kind of comes up and around, and that tends down there. So there's my halftone for what it's worth. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in some of the other information. So now I'm going to lay the foundation for my highlight. So I'm going to come in with some of that, the more pure yellow. Maybe a little bit of red, but mostly yellow. So this is not a complex color. This is where it's not a complex color because it's like the saturated yellow of the lemon. So I'm just using yellow and red. And I'm going to say this is where my highlight's going to be. So I'm kind of putting in where that lands. So now you can see I'm starting to get a little more dimension, a little more form, shadow information, the form of the lemon. So you can see it's like starting to have more dimension. And this side over here, I'm going to make it saturate also on the back side. Over here, it's a little more light. This side of the lemon is lighter too because the light's coming from this direction. Okay. So now you can see the colors coming up of the color of the lemon. Now I'm going to come in and put that white on top. So I'm going to have to really wash everything out of my brush. Lemons and apples are, green and yellow, but when it comes to highlight on red things, it's really hard because you can't really add white because you get pink, and that's cooler. You don't want that, so lemons are easier. Maybe just get my white out, maybe a tiny bit of yellow. But again, not a complex color. It's mostly white and a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and put that highlight on. Like that. And then I have some areas that are lighter on the rind, cut edge, that white stuff. Bring that out a little bit more. Come back in there, put that on a bit more. And I'm not putting I'm not trying to do like really a lot of detail. It's just a color study that shows the form and the shadow. So now my job is to look and see what more can I do to this. So on the lemon, because it's on the white piece of, you're going to have some reflected light down there. Reflected light is really tricky. It looks, if you look at your eyes see so much, and you don't want to make it any. The reflected light can be not much lighter than the shadow color. So you have to be really careful and sneak up on that one. And also that it's going to be cooler. So let's see if I can do that. So I'm going to add yep, that's okay. And this has a little reflected color, reflected light. It's very subtle. So there's my reflected light. Now underneath the lemon, where the lemons land on the surface, you have the darkest, what they call the occlusion shadow. And that's the darkest color in your painting, usually if it's a still life. So I'm going to use a little bit smaller brush. That is gonna do like a really dark color, which is the darkest that I can do with this palette is the brown and the blue kind of makes my black. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that dark landing area. And this one, maybe a little bit. This might be there. How are we doing on time?
At least 15 more
Okay.
minutes.
All right, good. We'll be good. So now, that's good. What I want to do is I want to lighten up my cast shadows. And that will help me see that occlusion shadow that I really can't see right now. So now I'm going to modify my cast shadow. And right now it's kind of purpley. I think I want to make it a little more bluish. So I'll try that out. So lit up my brush. Wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, so I went back and put some more white in. More. The other thing is that when you start on a dark toned surface, you tend to have to paint a little bit lighter, and I tend to paint too dark, so I like working on tone, but I have to remember that when I'm doing this part because it'll dry a little bit darker. So I'm trying to bring the value up to what I want it. And that's a little better, has a little more color in the shadow. Now I'm going to go in and make a couple details on the leaves to bring out sort of like the highlight or shininess of the leaf. So now I'm adding more warmth to to the green. I have a little bit of red in there. Trying to load my brush and do what I told you I was going to do, which is load it up every time. Sometimes I forget. I'm like, remind yourself, don't get carried away, load it up. Suggested. Okay, and that's it. So that's just a quick color study for value. It shows the hierarchy. It shows the light side, the shadow side, and it gives you a sense of form. Important things to consider are the occlusion shadow, where something sits on a table. If it looks like it's floating, it's because you're missing this occlusion shadow. The halftone, this is all form principle, it comes between the light and the shadow, and it's usually a soft edge. But when you're doing a color study, you can make it hard, it doesn't really matter. The simplicity of the strokes is what you're after, is what I'm after. So then you have the shadow side, you have the reflected light that comes up off the surface, and then you have the cast shadow. Any questions? Yes?
When we talked about this presentation, I wanted to make sure that we could see and you told me that the way you set up on a lower.
Oh, yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Yes.
What is that?
As far as setting up a still life, I tend to only want to use a single light source. The other thing I like to do is to set up my still life so it's down farther, so you're looking down on it. It's sort of like, it gives you this, it's unusual to see something when you're looking straight down or down at it. Normally we see things that are like this, or like at your table like this, so we're accustomed to seeing it there. When you put it down lower, it makes it more unusual and therefore more interesting. So I like working it not just at eye level or where you would see something on a table, but something just a little bit lower. It adds interest. Or something like you're looking up. Have you ever seen paintings where people are like looking down at a scene and people are walking around? How interesting that is. That's kind of the same idea here, where you're setting up your still life lower than you would. When I'm in the classes where I was learning this technique, ours were like down here. They were like 2 feet off the ground, and we're standing up painting something way down there. It was really interesting and fun to do because it was exciting because it's something that you're not usually looking at in that angle, so it excites and makes you want to paint it and describe it, so you're really focused on it more than your habitual view, which is usually here or here. So getting out, it's sort of like what photographers do too. They want to use these unusual angles because it makes it more interesting. Good question. Yeah?
So, I'm not a painter, so you have a unique, short, choppy strokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that organic? Did you learn that?
I really had to work a long time to do these controlled single brush strokes. It helps me. This would not be necessarily a finished painting. This is my process to help me do the signature brush stroke. So when I practice doing these one and leaving alone, then when I go to do the final painting, I'm much more gonna like it because I can do it where I need it. And
But do you still use the same strokes when you do the final painting?
Yeah, no, I will do that. I might refine it a little bit. Yeah.
I love that stroke.
Thank you. Yeah, because the brush strokes, if you blend it all in, you lose the character of the brush stroke itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So early on, you showed us your tools, and you showed us that you use also the palette knife.
Yes.
So will you be, if you were to finish this, would you, because you started with a brush, will you finish with a brush, or will you go maybe and use a palette knife?
If I was going to do a palette knife, I gotta show you my other favorite palette knife. I would probably. So here's one that's cut off. This is a new one. It's like flat on the edge, and I love it. It's almost like a brush because I'm using flat brushes. So I'll go in and I will, if I'm going to do palette knife work, generally I'll do it in the foreground because that makes it look like it's coming towards you. When you're looking down on something, you don't have that much of a foreground background, so I wouldn't necessarily do it here, but I might do it like on the lemon where I really want to put thick paint. Yeah, good question.
I have
Yes.
several questions.
Yeah.
How do you highlight a red object and not end up with it being pink?
I know. So you add the lightest pigment that you have available on your palette, which would be a yellow.
Okay.
Yeah. And you could add a little bit of white to the yellow. That would be all right to lighten that even farther to bring, because what you're doing is you're trying to make the value up higher. When you add just white to the red, it turns pink and it looks weird. So you try to avoid white at all costs when you're highlighting a red object and just add yellow to the
But you
white.
put yellow and red and then you've got orange.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, it's a conundrum. Okay.
It is, but yeah. Will Kemp has a great YouTube video on it.
Okay. I'm not done with you.
Yeah.
What are you painting on? Is that a sheet of canvas?
Yeah.
Or is it a canvas board? Now, how?
It's a piece of canvas.
So would you stretch that on stretcher bars then, or would
Oh,
you just?
no. So what I do this all the time. So I'll paint on this like, oh yeah, somebody wants that. So I'll mount it to a board
Okay.
with glue that has low water in it. Like they have glues at Home Depot that have less water in it.
Okay.
Type Bond 2, I think. And so then you put it, you'd adhere it to the board, then you cut the edges before it dries, and then you have something that's frameable. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to flame it in a floater frame, you would adhere it to a cradle board,
Okay.
and then you could float that.
Do you have any kinds of pointers about composition? Just some hints about what you do, because I've taken a couple of still life paintings.
Yeah.
From a woman whose style is very similar to this. And she does have some things she talks to us about distance between things, some things touching, some things.
Yeah, so
different
overlap,
distance.
right, so I set this one up to have overlap between the two lemons. So, and also I have 3 objects, which I like 3. 2 works good, but 3 is easier to make it look like more of a composition, a nice composition. And like objects, are good, like repetition is a good thing. And if you read any of the composition books, it talks about repetition, horizon line, like if you're doing composition on landscape or anything. The other rule of thumb for still life is to have, if square, you want things leaving the square in 3 areas, not just 2 or not 1. So if something's breaking the edge of your viewfinder, you want it to break the edge in 3 places, not 4, not 2, not 1.
And that includes your shadow?
Yes.
Not just the object?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I'm not done with you.
Yeah.
Do you use a specific kind of light bulb for your still life, and then do you use something different to light where you're painting?
That's a great question, and I'm still looking and changing, because I go on social media and I follow artists and they give me these tips, and I'm changing stuff all the time. The one thing I do really like, this is not usually the light that I use, this is my traveling light, it's an LED, doesn't really matter, but I really like halogen. What I really like the best is the sun. The sun is the best single light source there is. It gives you dramatic lighting, beautiful colors, and you are limited in how long you can spend on that painting, because you got 2 hours and that's it. You are done. Start another painting. And that is a good thing.
Okay, one more.
Uh-huh.
Do you not deal with a penumbra? The little bit of difference in the shadow and the surface that it's being cast on?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you didn't talk about that?
No,
Okay.
no. And you can just, fool around with penumbra and all those little different light things. Your eye can see so much more. It's your job to not see it, to not paint it. You see all this stuff, and how do you simplify and not put everything in your eye can see? Because your eye can see everything, and it's your job to not put every single thing down. So how do you choose and make choices? Yeah, what to leave out?
I'm done.
All right. Anybody else? Good questions. Yes.
You just use one brush to do the whole thing?
I use 2.
2.
I use this small one for the draw in, and then yeah.
Will you go back with a small brush?
No, not usually. No. People always ask me, how do I paint looser? Use the biggest brush. Use the brush that you think is too big, and use one twice that size. Yeah. A really good resource if you want to see somebody painting, every Friday, Craig Nelson, you can Google him, but it has to be Craig Nelson artist, because there's Craig Nelson the actor. So Craig Nelson the artist, every Friday at noon, he has a free demo at noon. And he talks all the way through and answers like all these questions. It's like, oh gosh, and he's just like an encyclopedia. He is the head of the art center down in San Francisco, the Art Institute. And he broadcasts it for free. Just log in and you'll learn a lot from everything he's saying and talking about. YouTube? Facebook.
Oh, on Facebook?
Facebook. Yeah, very generous guy. He started it during COVID and he hasn't stopped. Yes, question?
Yes, I didn't notice from back here how often you wipe your brush, and certainly I didn't notice you cleaning your brush, except that you mix the white.
Right, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I generally tend to wipe my brush off when I'm into like these colors, like, those. But once I get into the pure colors, that's why I start with the yellow, with the purest color, is because I haven't polluted my brush with all the other colors yet. So I'll start with the one that I want to be the most intense, and then I'll go into the other. And the fact that you don't get it all off makes it more, the colors blend better. Like you want a little bit of all those other colors in there. You don't want to necessarily take everything off. But then when you come to the highlighter whites, then you want to get it all off, yeah. Yeah, it's a good question.
I have a question. How would you log your hours, like to know when you become a master?
Yeah, so I joined the daily painting movement about 2014, and then I expanded on my hours, so every day I would do a painting. Didn't matter what it was, didn't matter whether it turned out, because you learn so much, you learn more from your failures, just like the mixing and stuff. So I consider mixing time is painting time. Sketching time is painting time. So all of that counts. So either I'm sketching, painting, or mixing paint. And so I'll do myself a schedule, like in the morning I'll start with this, then I'll go out and do stuff so I have relief from my eyes, then I'll come back. And maybe I'll do it an evening session, so I'll do it like that, and it's basically 7 days a week, yeah. Yes?
Will you clean off that whole palette and get rid of all that paint, or will you save it?
I generally will not save this, no. I used to put it in the freezer, and now it's just, what I would more likely do is I would do another painting of the subject, like I'll twist it and repaint the painting, because I've got it all mixed. So, you learn more from 10 one-hour paintings than you learn from one 10-hour painting. So I would not go further with this. I would keep another piece of paper out, I would twist the composition, I would repaint it with the same colors I mixed. And I would do it like 3 times. Yes?
I have a question about the M-gram paint.
Yes.
You said you used the white because it dried a little faster?
Yeah, it's a special, it's not just their white, it's the fast dry white.
Is it got alkyd in it? Is that?
Probably, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was just really curious because that
Yeah.
sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. There is another fast drying white, and I used to use it, and I don't like it. It starts with the P or whatever. I don't like that stuff. It gets sticky. This stuff is way better.
I will get some, thank you.
Yeah. Permalba, I think it's called. Yeah, I used to use that all the time, yeah, but I like this way better. It's just the consistency doesn't get sticky. Questions? That's it. Great. Great questions.
I am also not a painter, but I sure learned something. Thank you. Maybe I should take it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we take a break and come back at 3:45, okay?
That's what we're doing.
Oh. For posterity's sake, we are going to
For the permanent
introduce
record.
the board members. Oh, for the record.
The permanent record.
Oh, this is for the permanent record. Okay. We're going to introduce our board members, because I think you guys should know who's at the helm and who's running the business. So, we're going to start with Linnell. I'm not sure why. but
And we're not
that's
sure how
who
she's
we're
gonna get
gonna
out of here, but there we go.
Okay.
Let's see.
And Linnell, can I pass the jobby duty to you? Oh, here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to come in where I get on the frame.
Oh, okay.
Although you look so much better on YouTube than I do. Hi, I'm Linnell Phillips, your president. I've been president of the organization since 2020. So this is my 4th year. I've completed 3 years now. Typically, I would run your business meeting, but nobody else wants to do the audio visual. So since I'm the techie nerd of the group, I end up doing the videoing for you, and Kathy is gracious enough to run the meetings for us so we can make it all work. I also currently chair the special events. And if any of you are interested in taking that over from me, please let me know. This year we have a couple of special events that I'll be working on. I'll be at the county fair running the fine arts exhibition in the month of June. Last year, many of you volunteered to help us out running the fair, sitting the show, checking in, outtake, and we give special awards at that show. We're sponsoring the Spirit of the Sierra Award last year and again this year. And then we're flirting with, we don't have any firm commitment on this yet, the possibility of doing a pop-up storefront on Main Street in August. So we have to miss the fair in June, we have to miss the studio tour in September, so I'm kind of eyeing August, and I'm working with Carolyn Cunningham and Elena Tucker on trying to identify appropriate space that we might go into for that. So stay tuned for more info. We're not going to be able to do it too much in advance because if I was a landlord, I wouldn't want to say yes to me now. I would wait a little bit closer to it, but that special event may happen, and I'll keep you all posted on that. So let me introduce my vice president, Kathy Kyle, who's been around a lot longer than I've been.
Yes, I have. Kathy Kyle, and what can I say? What I'm gonna do is send it over. I am the chair for the outreach program, and I handle the brunch. And that's about it. So I'm going to pass the microphone. Let's work with who we've got in front. We've got
Next would be Jerry Litwin, our treasurer. Our secretary, Deborah Appleby, is not in the room.
I guess we're gonna go to Jerry.
Hi, I'm Jerry, treasurer. So I deal with all the money issues, the income and expenses, and I'm pretty careful to try to, hopefully, that we're running at a profit. So, watching, when we do a show, how the show is to come. In the newsletter, I told you how the spring show went, how the fall show went, and so try to keep you abreast on those things. Any questions, you're welcome to ask.
And she does a mighty fine job at it. What I'd like to do is Deborah Walker. She's our hospitality chair.
Okay, be sure you come in the frame. And don't leave your back to me. There we go.
My name is Deb Walker, and I'm brand spanking new. I haven't been here very long at all, but welcome. It's a hospitality.
Thank you, Deb.
And we've got Roberta. Roberta is taking over our membership. She's chair of our membership.
I'm Roberta Bassford. I'm brand new at membership, so I really haven't done much yet. But formerly, I was hospitality, and I want to thank everyone for all the refreshments they've brought over the months. It's made our meetings more fun.
Thank you, Roberta.
And you are a hard act to follow, so I'm giving you notice, Deborah. Fab, would you like to come up? Fab is our program chair.
Hi there, I'm Fab, and I try to find artists that can come and do demos like we had today. And if you have any recommendations, know somebody that does something that our group would be interested, please email me or call me, and I'd be very happy to contact them. Or any ideas for our programs. I'm open to all suggestions.
Fab.
And Fab handles a lot of our social media. You are an expert on handling that. That's so far beyond me. Sue Wickersham, she handles our newsletter.
And our Motherlode show.
Well, I was leaving something for her to do.
Hi, I'm Sue Wickersham, and I do the newsletter. I create it. And I co-chair the Motherlode show. And this year I'll be co-chairing with Carolyn Cunningham. And I do some Facebook and helping at shows and whatever else. So that's about it.
And she is one of our most hardworking. It's constant with Sue.
Oh, yeah, because the obsessive compulsive.
Carolyn Cunningham. I'm looking at you.
I know you're looking at me. You don't want me to talk about the member shows yet, right?
I do.
Oh, you want me to get into detail?
Tell us what you do. She doesn't do paintouts anymore.
I don't do paintouts anymore. Can you hear me? I can't tell. And Sue just sort of slept over the fact that she's Motherlode, but she is Motherlode. I'm co-chairing. She's the big boss. She does all the work. She's done it for 2 years in a row now, and it has been a raging success. So hopefully I can actually really help her out. I am also in charge of the 2 membership shows that we have at the Government Center each year. The fall, I keep mixing up my seasons. The spring show is coming up, and I'll give you some details in a minute. And then we'll have the fall show in October. I also, like I said, am going to be helping out with the Motherlode show, and I'm the one that's booked the large crafts room here at the senior center so that we can come on Tuesday mornings. Anybody can come, paint, draw, sketch, put your feet up, talk, which is what we do a lot of, and share ideas, help each other. It's really kind of nice for me. It's a time where I know I'm putting those 4 hours, and it's from 9 to 1. We have the room from 9 to 1. That I am going to dedicate at least those 4 hours that week to making some art, because you all know that other things, life just gets in the way sometimes, no matter what our good intentions are. You don't have to stay for the whole time. You can come for 5 minutes. You can come early and leave early, come late, stay to the end, whatever. We would love to see your faces there. So just show up Tuesday mornings. Okay, so she wants me to talk about the upcoming membership show. I have notes. The spring show dates are going to be taken, will be Monday, April 8th, starting at 8 a.m. and no work accepted after 9:30 in the morning. It's at the Government Center in Placerville, and if you don't know where that is, we'll make sure you know before you try and get there. The reception will be on Friday, April 12th at 3 o'clock, with the awards being announced at 3:30 and removal of art at 4 o'clock. Our judge is going to be Sherry Hacker. She comes recommended by Holly LaPorte, as well as Cheryl Gleason of the MAC. This show, so our fall show was based on subject matter, animals, landscapes, still lifes, etc. This show will be a media-based show, so we will have a section for oil painting, a section for water media, a section for drawing media, etc. The details will be posted at the newsletter and on the website starting in February. I will also be putting on an entry form will be available, and all of the rules. They'll be on the website and in the newsletter. And starting next month, I will bring paper copies, because I know some of you like the paper copies much better, of the entry forms and the rules. What I'm not going to print out, and you're going to want to look at carefully if you're going to enter, are the details about the media categories, because they're very specific, and there's always lots of questions. And we have limited space, so 3-dimensional work. If you plan on bringing something that's sculptural, you need to talk to Kathy Kyle ahead of time, and I will post her phone number and her email to let her know that you need a pedestal. We have 6?
We have 6.
We have 6 pedestals, and sometimes we can put 2 items on a pedestal, but it's kind of first come, first served. We are not, unfortunately, able to accept things like utilitarian ceramic pieces. It needs to be more, and I know there's a fine line, more sculptural work, because like I said, we're very limited. I'm also kind of excited to tell you that we're going to add a new category this time, and see what happens. It's going to be a novice category. Basically, the rule is you're a member, you're an adult, and you have never ever won any award in any kind of art show anywhere ever, not just a PAA show, but what we're trying to do with this is to encourage some of our artists who go, oh, I'm not good enough to enter the show, I'm no good, and you just don't enter. So there will be ribbons, but no monetary awards. If you then win a ribbon in this show, in the novice category, and if you're a novice and you qualify, you don't have to enter it as a novice. You can enter the main part of the show. But we're gonna lump any media within that novice category. If you do win a ribbon then you're not eligible next time.
You're not a novice.
You're not a novice
Anymore.
So there will be details about what that is and what qualifies you as a novice on that thing that I'm gonna have on the website. I'm kidding. With the it's sort of separate from the entry rules / prospectus. It will be category details for the media-based show. You'll see it if you look.
And AI goes where?
AI is going to be we do have a miscellaneous category. Connie?
Is there gonna be a size limitation?
You know, so far we have not done a size limitation. I don't know, I guess I gotta wait till I see what you bring.
We don't have one yet. The one thing though, I'm glad you brought that up. If you are going to if you're gonna glaze your piece, meaning put glass or acrylic over the front of it, which I don't think really applies to you, but if you are, if it's over 18 by 24, we're going to ask that's acrylic. And in the entry rules, it shows how many square inches an 18 by 24 is, so if it's more than that, then it needs to be acrylic. And if you don't know how to figure out square inches, length times width, it's actually written in the entry rules. So if you have a question, my phone number is on there. If you have any questions at the end of this meeting, well, if you have questions now, wait till the end of the meeting to ask me. So I think that's more than enough.
Yeah,
And we've got Marilyn, and then I'd like to hear from Matt Harlan too.
Okay, I just want to follow up on the membership. Who here would be entering the membership? Show of hands? Okay, we've got some popularity.
And then would
showing.
anybody qualify for, that's in the room today, qualify for the novice category? Okay, we got a couple. All right, nice, nice, good, good.
Okay. Just for the record, we've got 3 novices that are going to enter the.
That's awesome. And then there's one that I know of that's not in the room today, so that gives us 4 minimum.
Okay,
there.
that's good. That's good.
And
We've
if
got
they each
some
bring
interest
4
there.
pieces, that would be 16 pieces of art in the novice category.
Okay. Note to self.
Move up 1.5 feet so Polly can come in behind you. She's loading and unloading.
Oh, okay. I wanted to tell you there are, for those of us who are 3D sculptors, there are 6 pedestals and 2 are now taken. So, just letting you guys know, putting the word out there.
And Kathy's email is on this sheet, Kathy.Kyle.
And I do live on texting, and if you like to text me, but my email and my phone number is there.
Hi, Polly, thank you.
Okay. Polly LaPorte Polly LaPorte has left the building. So we did that. I just wanted to do the quick follow-up. Okay, Marilyn. Okay, Marilyn, I'm not going to tell you what she does for us, because I'm going to let her tell us. Okay, back of the room. Marilyn is coming from the back of the room. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Jasowski, and I'm a historian.
Hold that closer.
And I have,
Closer.
all right, can you hear me all right? I'm Marilyn Jasowski, and I'm a historian, and my job is to collect any news articles, information that show up in the various media, and put it in a book. And I do bring the book every meeting, and I put it back there by the refreshment table. So please, if you have a chance, it goes back to 2006, and it's really kind of fun to look back for me to remember a lot of the people that I used to know. I've been on the board since 1976, off and on, not all the time. So this is a privilege to work with this group of artists, and I'm having a good time with it. So I'm just going to put this back there, help yourself, and take a look.
Marilyn has off and on also been our treasurer, which is a very thankful job, huh, Jerry? Love it. Love being treasurer. No, it's a thankless job, you guys. It's a thankless job being treasurer. Okay. It looks like the only board member that is not here is Wendy Scarlett, unless I've missed Wendy.
Well, actually, we have Deborah Appleby, our secretary, is not in the room today. Our publicity chairperson, who does an outstanding job, Sylvia Coleman, is not in the room today. We have gotten better press since Sylvia has been our publicity chairperson than we have in the longest time. And then I don't think Wendy Scarlett's in the room, and I don't think Myra Cooper Holmes is in the room. But before we bring up Matt Harling, I wanted to mention to the group that we really welcome your input on the board, and we're happy to make you a board advisor. We have people who are not actually chair people that come to all of our board meetings, and they have a voice. And Matt Harlan is one of those people. He co-chaired our tour last year, and this year he's a board advisor, and Matt can tell you what he does.
And Matt is here. So come on up, Matt.
He's our token male.
There are token males out there.
Well, this is our token male on the board at the moment.
There we go.
We welcome anyone to join us. Welcome any of you males out there. We'd love to have you help with us. I just a couple years ago, I signed up to help out with to be on the studio tour, and thought that it would be a good idea for me to help. And I do the web page for the studio tour and provide some input to others that are leading it. And last year, Myra needed some extra help, so I was helping her as a co-chair.
He also just took the point on running a survey for us. So thank you, Matt, for all you do with us. Other board advisors that aren't here today are our webmaster, who also does paintouts, Vesla Hooper. And we have a new person in our social media and newsletter departments, Angie Russell. She lives in New Mexico, so she works with us virtually. And then we also have Donna Nelson, who's not in the room today, who has worked on the Motherlode show as the co-chair in the past and is currently helping with that show. And we also nickname her our parliamentarian, because she always takes the point on things like rewriting the bylaws when that needs to happen. So these are the kind of things that we can use help with, even if you're not in an actual position on the board. Our board advisors are very, very important to us. We typically would have a vote on this slate of officers, but that requires a quorum to accomplish. And as many people as there are here in the room, it's not quite a quorum, but I would like you to vote today to affirm this slate of officers with an aye or a nay vote. So Kathy, would you call that vote?
Okay, can somebody make you make the recommendation? Who wants to second it?
We accept that
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
We got it.
Any opposed? You can get up here and put your name on the list.
Okay, your board is now officially installed.
Thank you all.
A few of you, as you're signing in, want to pay your dues for 2024. And are there people here who have written a check that would like to turn it in today? Okay, you would. Okay, you would. Okay, Roberta, do you want to stand up quickly? Roberta is our membership chair, and she is the one to whom you need to return your check to. We don't have an application for you to fill out, but Roberta's got empty pages, and she just needs
We have blank
firstborn.
sheets of paper.
She needs your firstborn. Just your name and whatever else is out there. Not
Hey.
so please do that. Along with that.
We do have application forms.
We have applications, okay. Okay, good job, okay. For those that have yet to sign up for their dues for 2024, and you want to go home and go on the website, you can fill that out through the website, and then you could pay through PayPal. Jerry's okay with that.
And you can also print a form off the website and mail us a check if you didn't bring your checkbook today.
Okay, if you'd rather not put your finances out there, you want to write a check, then you can print the form, fill it out, and mail it to our post office box. I just want to say that last year we tallied 200
213 members for 2023. And right now, well, with you two guys, we're probably up to 45 that have already up for 2024. But 213, Marilyn, Marilyn is our historian. Marilyn's been here longer than dirt, right? 213 is pretty darn good. We haven't seen that number in many, many decades, have we? I just, you guys, you belong to a fabulous club, a hot rollin', on top of digital worlds club. It's fabulous.
When we went into COVID, we were at about 135 members. We actually increased our membership through the 2020 COVID year and have increased it every year since.
Nice.
So we're getting the word out there. I mean, we've got somebody in New Mexico, and isn't there another state?
Georgia and Washington State.
Georgia, Alaska, and New Mexico.
Alaska, okay.
Alaska. You know, we're reaching out there, you guys. This is good. February's meeting is the second Monday. So it'd be February 12th.
But it's going to snow, so it'll probably be canceled.
No.
It's gonna be hardship.
No. Well, there's
I don't know that far out. It's just that, like every other time in February, we get canceled because there's snow in Placerville.
Well,
Not up in Pollock Pines, but down here in Placerville. But if there's not snow on the road, we'll be here second Monday.
What is the presentation in February?
what's that?
What is the presentation in February?
Who's coming?
I know that. It's on the newsletter. I didn't write it down. There you go.
There.
Yes.
Who is it?
Sierra Comiskey?
I think that's what.
Yeah. Yes, that's the name. Good job, good job. And is she a painter?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so she has an interesting process. She's a multimedia artist. She does murals, she does painting, but she also starts a process from some of her work on the computer and then bring it to painting. So she will bring her entire process to us. But she does also, just like what we saw today, like she does pet portraits from pictures and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what she has to offer.
Thank you.
And then in March, we have Linda Heath Clark, and that would be the third Monday in March.
And Linda
Scratchboard.
is a top of the list scratchboarder. I mean, she won a huge prestigious award out of New York for her work, and it makes her a master signature, I think, is what you call that.
Yeah.
She also had a large billboard of her work put up for all to see off the freeway down in LA. She's amazing. And she is a past president of PAA. So, you know, you guys, we're in good company. We're in good company. Check the newsletter. The MAC has got so many classes that are being offered, and they just might be like a 2-hour class, but it's just kind of dabbles into maybe sparking an interest. So there's a lot that's going on at the MAC. We've got that in there. We've got our art lunch that is scheduled for Wednesday, January 17th. And that's going to be at Pizza Norcia, which is, I think it says Placerville, but I think it's more
El Dorado.
I think it's more El Dorado. I was going to say that.
Definitely El Dorado.
Downtown El Dorado.
Yeah, it's off of Mount Pleasant.
And they have salads now, too, in
Okay.
addition to pizza.
So that's always fun to go to. And I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions, anything to add? We've got a few minutes. Oh.
Where's the luncheon again?
It is at Pizza Norcia. It is in the newsletter with the address, and it's off of Mount Pleasant.
It's
Pleasant
Valley Road in El Dorado, across the street from Poor Reds.
What time?
12:30, they don't open till noon, so we'll go in at 12:30.
12:30. Okay?
So all the working men get out of the way first.
Yep. Tony?
Well, I have a question for you for the 3D art displays.
Yes.
But I can come to you later because I do jewelry, and how do you display jewelry? But I did inherit a table with a glass top, and I might talk my stepdad into, my dad, into putting a lock on it. Okay, we'll talk to you. So,
So
talk about
it's a
different displays, being able to
Okay, so it's a
display.
table that's got, we'll talk.
Yeah,
We'll talk.
And we have displayed jewelry before on a form,
Yeah.
and sometimes the artist will bring a plexiglass case to put on top of it.
Yeah, so, but I'll discuss what I've got and how we can possibly utilize it.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay.
And just another sidebar, Donna Nelson, God love her, she always brings in flowers in a vase, beautifully arranged, and then we kind of
Then we give them to
raffle it
Tony
off.
or Valerie
And-
Burkhoff because they always win.
So that's not happening today, so, you know, you can quit holding your breath. But I do want to tell you that we have 39 of you in here
That's
today.
signed up.
And it might be 40 because I am thinking somebody did not sign in.
Yeah, see, 40, 41.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This has been our biggest meeting to date since
It is. It's
since we
just-
started
I
coming
love
back
it.
live in meetings.
I love this, it's huge. So there are 39 or 40 of us here on January's 2024 meeting. Yes,
What does
Orianne?
it take to have a quorum? How much is a quorum? Earlier you said about the election.
What's a quorum?
Yeah, I have to go back and review the bylaws, but I think it's something in the neighborhood of 2/3.
Oh.
And so right, when you're talking about, when we wrote the bylaws, we had 135 members, right? And so if we put 40 in the room, we would, but we still never end up with enough. Yeah, and so the way the bylaws read is if we can't draw a quorum, I'm allowed to appoint the replacement person to the position as the president, and I always bring that in front of the board first, but I thought it would be nice to get an affirmation vote from you guys in the room today, and also to introduce those of us that you don't all know.
Perfect. Just.
Good question.
It did seem like a quorum would be a lot.
Yeah, especially as we've gotten really large, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And we're getting there. With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Betsy.